Blakely with Homeschool Hopscotch, and today I have a guest here for our homeschool side hustles. Her name is Lee, and her business is called Love Lightly Jewelry. So, Lee, I'll let you take it away. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, I am a homeschool mom. I have one son, he's 10, so he's in fifth grade this year already, and I do the jewelry business from home mostly. I do hand stamped jewelry, I make jewelry out of broken pottery and broken china, and I love setting up at festivals and getting to meet the people that are actually buying jewelry from me. I typically tend to work early in the morning before he gets up. He's a night owl, and so am I. And so I end up getting up early the next morning while he's still sleeping in. And that's when I usually get my work done. So,
Okay, that's awesome. So, you said you make hand stamped jewelry. Can you tell me more about that?
sure. So it basically I get metal blanks like for bracelets or necklaces, and I can stamp names or words or sayings, Bible verses, things like that onto those metal pieces, and then make a piece of jewelry out of it. So people get like their kids' names on there or their favorite music lyrics, stuff like that. So.
Okay, well, neat. So, where do you buy the metal pieces that you use?
So honestly, Impress Art is a great source for those metal blanks, and there's a company called Vintage, Vintaj, and typically I either buy them online or I go to Hobby Lobby and get my stuff there.
Okay, that's neat. So,
Mhm.
I know you may not have, I didn't prepare you for this, but do you happen to have like an example with you?
I don't, I do in my craft room, I think.
That's okay. Why don't we do this? You can send me a picture later and we'll put it in the blog post notes, okay?
Perfect.
So
Yeah.
anybody watching, you'll be able to see an example of what she's talking about in the notes of this post. Um, and so Lee, so how did you get started doing this? Like what made you decide to start your jewelry business?
Well, I am ever since I can remember, I've always wanted to be making things. And so I'm constantly, my wheels are always spinning. And I saw a necklace somewhere, I don't even remember where I saw it, and it was stamped. And I thought, I could do that. And so it was right around Mother's Day, and my son was really little. And so I made a humble little necklace that said Stevie's Mommy. And I thought, hey, I'll post it, see what happens, share it with my friends. And before I knew it, I was getting a lot of orders for moms for Mother's Day, and for other people's moms. And I don't know, that's just kind of where it started, and then I just kept going from there. So
Okay, and how long ago was that? How many years have you been doing it?
I think it's been about 4 years now, I think. So
Okay. And how do you sell your jewelry? Do you sell online, or I heard you mention that you go to you have festivals, is that what you said?
Yeah, so I set up at different festivals. I sell online on Etsy. I have my Instagram account is very helpful for sales. I probably do as well or better there than even on Etsy. The festivals are my favorite way to sell things because I think when you kind of make a relationship with your clients, they want to keep coming back and want to buy from you. And this past summer, I had a pretty neat experience. I set up at the same same festival 2 years in a row, and I had people going, oh my goodness, I'm so glad you set up this year, we were hoping you'd be here. So it's just a really neat, that's yeah, that's definitely my favorite way to go about it.
That's awesome. So
hmm
I think everybody knows how an Etsy shop works and pretty much how a booth works, but how do you sell jewelry on Instagram?
So Instagram, what I end up doing there now is, well, used to I would send a PayPal invoice and then let people pay that way, whatever. Now I'll put a link in the description of my jewelry for my Etsy shop and drive people there. But that's where most of my sales end up being generated from Instagram.
So do you post a picture of the piece of jewelry and then, put in the notes that it's for sale in your Etsy shop?
Yep.
That's really neat. So, as far as like an audience for Instagram is, do you have like a strategy for how you find them, or do they mostly find you? How does that work?
It's all about the hashtags. So that's how I found you guys, I think, was putting hashtag homeschool and searching for things that I'm interested in. And then I'll follow them, they'll follow me back, stuff like that. So,
Well, that's amazing. That's so neat
Mhm.
that you can do all that online.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
So do you work every day, or do you have big days where you make all your jewelry, or what does a typical day look like for your business?
I have no typical days between homeschool and the jewelry making. It's a little crazy, and when it's festival season, it's a lot busier. And Christmas time is obviously busier too. But early morning is when I get most of my work done if I'm working that day. But I try to only work 2 or 3 days a week just so that I can make sure I'm spending enough time, homeschooling. So.
So do you typically work the whole day, or how long does it take you to make one piece of jewelry usually?
Um, That it completely depends on what I'm doing. The stamping I've gotten a lot quicker over the years, but like the soldered jewelry that I make out of broken plates and things like that can take me an hour, to make a piece of jewelry. Um, but typically 15 or 20 minutes, somewhere around there to make a piece. I like to work about a half a day and be done if I can. But when it's right before a festival, I work like crazy.
Yeah,
So,
just nonstop.
yeah. Hmm.
Okay. Well, so then what would you say, how many hours do you usually work per week? I know it will vary, it'll be heavier sometimes of the year, but
Sure.
what is it like
Um,
during your heavy season and then also during the lighter season?
so during the lighter season, I probably work 12 to 15 hours, somewhere around there. And then during the busier times, it's, 20 to 40 hours, just depending. So, yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. So, what would you say? I know there's not a specific kind of training you probably take to learn to make jewelry, but how could someone learn to do this?
So, YouTube is probably my best friend as far as learning how to do things. Just looking up tutorials on there. I think Hobby Lobby offers classes. I never have taken any classes for it because most of the things I've learned, I've just researched online and got to it.
Absolutely. Okay, and Lee, if someone wanted to get started in this business, they were watching this video and they said, that's what I want to do, what advice would you give them?
I would say go for it. Go for it with gusto. Don't be afraid to try anything. There are workshops, there are things online. Pinterest is a great resource. YouTube is a great resource. Make sure you have a sturdy place to work and clutter. It gets really easy to get very cluttery with this job. So make sure, you've got good organization and stuff like that. It frees up your thinking. So.
Okay, great. And
Mhm.
so what kind of things would they need to get started? What does the startup cost and what kind of tools would they need?
Hmm. So it depends on which type of jewelry you're into making. So I started out with the hand stamped stuff and kind of went on from there. A really good hammer, you need a good steel block and a good set of stamps to get you started. And I like to, like after a festival, invest a little bit of that money back into my business, buy some more tools, buy some better pliers, things like that. But I probably have, gosh, to get started in that, I'd say probably $100 maybe to get started in the stamping because the stamps are a little expensive. You spend $30 to $50 on a set of stamps usually. Um, Other than that, it's just beads and charms and however much you want to buy.
Okay. And
Hmm.
what in, so our next question is a little personal, and I want to make sure that you answer it in a way that you're comfortable. But we ask people how much they make with their side hustle. So you don't have to be
Hmm.
specific, but we kind of would like a ballpark, or maybe you could tell what you charge per piece of jewelry or that kind of thing.
Okay. So jewelry prices range anywhere from $10 to $65 in my shop. It really just depends on how hard you want to work it. So, but I do well. I've transitioned out of another job that I was working before I started making jewelry. I'm almost totally transitioned out of that other side hustle.
What was your
So
other
it's
side
good.
hustle?
Oh, so I'm a window painter for different businesses all over Tennessee. Painting like right now would be pumpkins and scarecrows and things like that. So I just traveling around a lot with that. But the older my son's getting, the harder it is to do, that.
Yeah,
So
I
because
could
all
see
the
that.
traveling with the homeschool, yeah,
Well, that sounds like fun too.
it is. I've been working for myself mostly since I was 17 years old. So it's just kind of one of those things well, that's what I said earlier. I just constantly, my wheels are spinning about things I can be doing. So,
That's so neat. That's so
mhm.
cool.
Yeah, thanks.
So, Lee, tell me this. What is the best part of your business, of your side hustle?
Oh, my favorite thing is getting to hear the stories behind the jewelry that people are buying because a lot of times they'll order something really sweet, like for their mother in law or for their sister, or things like that. And it just is so neat to know that they're choosing to show their love by buying something from me. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it's a joy. I love it. I absolutely love it.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so, what would you say is the hardest part of this job?
Oh, knowing when to quit. Because I get in Hobby Lobby or I go in the bead stores or whatever and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I want to buy it all. I have so many ideas I can't stop." So, but that's probably the hardest thing really is just knowing when to take a break and let yourself take a break, you know?
Yeah, I can see that. And so, you're talking about taking a break. Is this kind of a job where you can pace yourself and you can take some time off if you want to, or do you lose a lot of
Mhm.
momentum if you do that?
Um, I don't That's a good question. I think I can take a break when I decide I need to take a break, and it doesn't really affect me too much. I mean, obviously, when you get the ball rolling and you get in a groove or whatever, that's good, but it's good to take a break too and let yourself have a minute to kind of recoup and refresh. So,
Okay, well, that's awesome. Well,
hmm
this has been such a treat to learn about how you make jewelry. It's a very unique side hustle. We haven't covered anything like this before. So thank you for taking the time to
yeah,
talk with us today.
yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, I'll see you later. Bye, bye, Lee.
Okay, bye.